Hello and welcome to this week's Devil in the Detail podcast. I'm Rob Parkinson and I'm here talking all things. So for the Devils joining the show this week, as ever, we've got Paul Whiteside. Paul Whiteside, how's your week been? Keeping Britain warm?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's nice to be here. Introduced to my full title, Mr. Paul Whiteside. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing all right, mate. Not doing too bad. Yeah, despite the good weather, we're still pretty busy and what have you. So, yeah, I'm doing all right. Worked in a church today. The church my mum and dad got married in. Met the priest, Mr. Father Saunders. I've not seen for a while. I moved out of the area, you see, but he was very, very kind. We had a cup of tea and we got his boiler back going again. And, yeah, happy days. All things good.
Be honest with me now. Paul, did you ask him for a favour on Sunday, sorry?
I did, yeah. Bit of divine intervention, as they say. Yeah, he said he'd say a few Hail Marys for us, and said it might need a bit more than a few Hail Marys, Father. We'll see how we get on.
Good stuff. Also, join us on the show. We've got Paul Parkin. How's your week been, mate?
Hi lads. Tricky, let's say that. You may notice the headwear. It's not for fashion, clearly. I'm not a little bit under the weather. I've got a bit of a virus going on. Been rough the last few days, but I've had a full week. It's been good since Friday out of the way, but Monday night we had the fans forum, which was good fun. And yesterday was my mum's 82nd birthday. Some of our listeners might remember my mum from the Willows. She worked there for 30 years, so you will have seen her about. She worked in the restaurant, and then obviously she washed the kits for, like I say, for just over 30 years, cleaned the changing rooms. And basically probably one of the major reasons at fault that why I'm as daft as I am. But yeah, no, so we had that. We've done a bit of landscaping for her. And then I get to talk to you guys tonight. So realistically, despite feeling under the weather, the week's going really well.
Is there a running joke that every birthday she has, you buy her a sofa kit? And if there isn't, why not?
Because she would wrap it around my head. She's seen enough Salford shirts to last her more than a lifetime. Like I say, she started washing them in 77 and went through. She's seen all types of shirts come and go. I remember, the changing rooms at the Willows were awful, weren't they, really? And they had one washing machine for years. They had to put all the kits in it, but the big, heavy, thick ones had to be put in the bath to get the mud out because it was winter, covered in mud and sand and all sorts. And then she'd have to lug them about, and they weighed an absolute ton, these things. She put them in bags. At that time, they had to come back to our house to be dried because you couldn't dry them in the changing rooms because the changing rooms were damp. When I think back now, we think things are tough now, but the club was a different place back then as well. I remember when they got a dryer, a massive dryer. I must have nicked it from a laundrette or something, and that was like a godsend. But I think they were worried about putting it on, wasting the electricity. But yeah, no, she's still alive and kicking. She still loves the club, even though she would never admit it, but she does. She still asks about everybody there. So yeah, but no, there'll be no buying of kits for her, believe me.
Good stuff. I've had a busy week preparing ourselves for the big news, which I'll announce now, that we've been nominated in the Independent Podcast Awards 2023 in the Best Sports Podcast and the Best Theme Tune. Parky, thoughts?
Well, if you're asking me, we're winners. No, look, it's just great, isn't it, to be involved in these things. We do it because we love it. We love talking about rugby. We do it anyway. But to be recognised by people is always a key. And it shows. I mean, without our listeners as well. If nobody listened, we wouldn't even be. Nobody would be talking about it. I know on the coach on the way home on Friday night, I had quite a few people. I hope you're going to mention this. I hope you're going to say this about this. I hope, after the game on Friday, and I was quite amazed how many people do listen and sort of take notice. So yeah, it's good to be recognised, isn't it? And fingers crossed we can get something out of it.
Yeah, very exciting times. We've got through the first round already. The next round is in August, where we go up against another round of so many podcasts. And then in October is the final 5. So if we get through in August, we get to go to the ceremony in London in October. Paul, it's been a journey on this podcast. We've all made sacrifices. It's been an opportunity to be able to sort of promote ourselves and promote the club. Paul Rowley always said, control the controllables, which is what we do on this podcast. We've enjoyed every minute of it. And it's great that obviously now we've got an opportunity to possibly win an award for it.
Yeah. I mean, awards are nice, aren't they? But I think the main thing is we just keep giving the listeners the information, don't we? And we enjoy doing it, and we enjoy speaking to the players and Paul Rowley. And that's a good thing, isn't it? That we tell people about this great club. So if any award comes along, it's very, very nice, isn't it? So yeah, have to keep our fingers crossed for that, won't we? I mean, don't know whether I'll be working in October. Might be pretty busy by then, but I'm sure we'll get a bit of time off if we go to an awards ceremony. I have to get my suit out.
Yeah, like I said, we can't thank our listeners enough for the support they give us. We've been at this for, like I say, 7 years. We're one of the sort of oldest rugby league podcasts in the market, we'll call it. So if we are able to reach out outside of our bubble, Parky, and win an award against other sports podcasts, might be football, might be rugby union, might be cricket, might be anything. That's a statement for me that, one, rugby league is on the market for everybody, and two, we sort of deserve what we get.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, we are as rugby league podcasts anyway, we're a small fish in a small pond in many ways, because rugby league being quite a sort of, it is a northern sport. Let's not try and beat around the bush. And the amount of people who do pay attention to it outside of, like you say, the major sports of this country, football and cricket, to even be sort of competing with people who do podcasts for them subjects, when they get news thrown at them constantly. Every day there's Sky Sports News for 24 hours a day, or Talk Sport, or whatever. It's all football or cricket or something. And rugby league gets a little mention. You've got to make the most of what we get. And yourself and Paul doing the interviews after the game, putting yourselves out there and things like that. And that just shows a level of commitment to put us in that space between these people to get us recognised. And I think that's, I think it's easier to do a podcast on football or cricket or boxing or something like that, because there's so much of it going on. We focus mainly on Salford Rugby League Club, which, like I say, is quite a small thing. But to get outside that and talk to the bigger rugby league world, and then to be recognised by people further afield than that, that's some achievement, and that'd be fantastic, just to be mentioned in those in those echelons, really.
Yeah, Paul, we talk to great people, men's players, ladies players, the Salford Devils Foundation. There's stories everywhere, and that's part of this podcast. We're able to reach out and maybe recycle a story which maybe the club have already done, but not many people recognise. So we thank them people as well for engaging with us and allowing us to tell their stories.
Yeah, I think you just got to do it on your level, haven't you? I mean, that's what we've tried to do, haven't we? With the interviews and things like that. You try and talk to players and that as your friend, don't you? And not try and be a Billy expert. I mean, I'm no journalist. I just do central eating for a living, but I enjoy just doing bits and pieces. And if we do it on a supporter level as like a layperson, what we are really, aren't we? And I think people appreciate that, don't they? You're just doing it, as your hobby sort of thing. So I've really enjoyed doing it and learned a few things along the way. So yeah, I think it'd be nice to get recognised, but I think get recognised on represent our listeners as well, because that's what we're doing it for, aren't we? So any awards we go for, it'd be to represent them as well, wouldn't it? So can't do it without them. So and their support.
Yeah, like I said, big thanks for all your support, and we'll keep you informed about the results of the awards. So let's move on now. Let's look forward. Let's look back, to the Wakefield defeat. All the big news stories coming out with Salford Devils. We've got Whiteside's World Rugby League, and then we'll preview the Leeds game on Sunday. So we'll start with the defeat at Wakefield. So Salford Devils travelled to Wakefield on Friday night and went down to defeat 32 points to 6. Parky. It was error-strewn. There was not much intensity. Wakefield desperate at the bottom of the table, looking for a win. We've come off a short turnaround. It just wasn't the right time for us.
Yeah, look, as I mentioned earlier, people on the coach on the way back were not ribbing, but they were saying, "Oh, what are you gonna say on the podcast? How are you gonna wrap this one up? How are you gonna be positive about this?" I only told them what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna be honest, and that was disgusting on Friday night. I understand we have injuries. Wakefield had twice as many injuries, and probably a poorer team than we've got. There's no excuse there. I understood that the case that missing Braley, Croft and Ackers, our attack was going to struggle a little bit. It's going to be clunky. Players out of position. I get that. But there is nothing to stop any player defending and tackling the man in front of him. And that fell apart on Friday night. Some of our defending was absolutely woeful and amateuristic at times. It looked like the players didn't know each other. Even though it's the closest knit team I've probably ever seen at Salford. These players, there isn't many of them, but there seems to be a really good group there. But they looked disinterested. From the first couple of minutes when Wakey scored, I thought, that's it. That's the kick up the backside we're going to need to boost for this game. We're not going to let these beat us. We knew they were fighting. They need to, they want to stay in the Super League. Of course they do. But it never woke us up. And we had probably a 5-minute spell in the second half where we had a go. But other than that, there was nothing to shout about, nothing at all. And I hate being like this. And I understand it's a bad game. We've had a bad game. It's out of the way, hopefully. We did have players missing, but there are certain elements of that game. It's not losing. As a Salford fan of 40 odd years, I get losing. I understand losing. But it's how you lose games and what you put into it. And if any of them play, I think probably 2 players out of that squad on Friday night can probably look at themselves and go, yeah, I think I did all right. But the rest of them really needed to have a sit down and a chat. I felt for Paul Rowley. I really did. He must have been wondering where this has come from. I saw him at halftime and at full time walking across the pitch, and he looked devastated. Now, he's a man that doesn't really show his emotions, but it looked like he'd been beaten by something. It's horrible to see, and it's out of the way. I hope it's really bad performance. And I'm not taking anything away from Wakey. They fully deserved it. They were up for it. They were faster. They were stronger. Their offload game was brilliant. Even their defence at times was spot on. But we looked at like we lacked ideas, and but it was the defending that hurt me the most. I knew we'd have struggle going forward, but every man has to do a job at defending. You stop what's in front of you. There was one point in the first half, I think it was Liam Hood. Was it Liam Hood? Picked the ball up from acting out and just ran. Just simply ran. And nobody moved. I mean, we're not talking James Roby or Cameron Smith. You know what I mean? This is no disrespect to the lad, but he's not the greatest we'll ever see at playing in that role. And we made it look easy for him. And that was what's disappointing. And the number of Salford fans that had travelled on Friday night as well, I really felt. And, that them numbers can easily drop off if you see performances like that, because it reminded me of late 90s, early 2000s. And that's how bad it was. But I'm just hopeful now that that's behind us. We get players back and we move on.
Yeah. Out enthused, outworked. Paul, it kind of reminded me of, remember when we played Wakefield and Mark Corvo did that tap penalty and dropped it. That the whole night kind of reminded me of that. Just couldn't get out of the spiral, kept knocking on. We weren't able to build anything. Like Parky said, Paul Rowley, we'll put him on in a minute. He wasn't happy about the performance. Adam Sidlow in a previous one of our pop-up podcasts said he got into him in the changing room, which is right. But yeah, disappointing. But like you said, they're fighting for their lives, and we just couldn't find a way.
Yeah, I thought they were beat before they went out, Rob, to be honest with you. I think all the talk in the week from people on Twitter and supporters was, we're not going to win there, this, that and the other. And I think the players must have been listening to that and rubbed off on them. They didn't even compete. We didn't compete in that game. You had Wakefield there, a team so low on confidence, they 20-odd points up, they kept kicking penalty goals. That's how low they were on confidence, because they knew they were panicking. They were panicking when they were 20 points up, because they were just desperate to win the game. So I thought it was game over at 8-0, because there was no way we were going to come back in that game. There just wasn't. And all this faff that people say about injuries and what have you. Wakefield had players out. They had more players out than we did. There was enough on that. There was enough out there on Friday night to compete and tackle and work, and nobody wanted to do the work. It was as if they'd said to each other, "We'll chuck this game because Wakefield, the bottom of the league, they're not near us, so they're not going to like overtake us and get in the place." It was like they just wrote the game off for me, and I thought it was disgusting the way they performed. And you can't turn form on and off like a tap. You can't just turn around this weekend and beat Leeds. They've won again. They're sort of climbing up. I think they're 4 points behind us now, or 2 points behind. They're right near us. So it was really disappointing because, like I was saying to my dad and James Oskey, who come with me in the van, we was churning on all the way home about it and saying, you get the same 2 points for beating Leeds as what you get for Wakefield. So that 2 points would have been massive for us winning there. We'd have still been up there with Lee in the table. They've won again, kept the run going. So it was really disappointing. And it was. I mean, you stole me thunder about the Mark Corvo thing. I think I put that on Facebook actually. And it was. Parky's right. It was like going back to the 99, 2000, 2001, that sort of 4-year period there where it was absolute garbage. And, it was funny in a way because I was talking to someone in the crowd and I don't think he'd had days like that before. And this lad in front of me, and he was going on as if we should get our money back and all this rubbish that people say. And I thought, blimey, if us guys would have had money back for the amount of times we've seen stuff like that, to pay your mortgage off. So, no, it was disappointing. It really was. Sometimes you get those games or you get those nights in seasons and things don't come off. Nothing came off for us, did it?
No.
Let's have it right. So, but no, like Parky said, I agree with him. You can have all players missing and your attack will be clunky and all this, but you can still put the work in and work hard and make the tackles. And they didn't for me. We dropped off too much and Wakefield won at a canter, and that's not acceptable.
Yeah, I was worried about you, Paul. I didn't see you at the game, and then obviously rang you a couple of times. No answer. I was like, "Whoa, where is he?"
Well, no, I applied to go on the press list, but I was going to stand with our Imogen anyway. So I thought, well, I'll just try and get in the press conference after the game. But I didn't have a clue where it was. The press guy didn't get back to me at Wakefield. It was hard work, and I presumed it was in them flats behind the goals. But our Imogen was staying at my mum's on Friday night, so I had to go and get a bag from my van to give to my mum so she could go home with them. So I couldn't really hang about, really. I didn't know where it was anyway. Plus, we got stuffed, and I wanted to go home, and I was tired from work, so I didn't hang about. I just went. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you picked the phone up eventually, and I was like, "Oh, thank God for that."
Yeah, I spoke to you on the way home. Yeah, you should have come with us, to be honest, Robert. I didn't. You could have actually come with us next time we got away game. Actually, come with us because it saved you going in your motor. But yeah, we'll sort some out in future.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about Paul Rowley, here he is reacting to the defeat. So that was Paul Rowley reacting to the defeat against Wakefield. Parky, disappointed. We've talked about why he was disappointed. I gave him the option about the way he plays and him not sticking, and that's why we kind of spiraled and got beat. But he was like, no, didn't bend the back enough. We got what we deserved.
It's funny, we were talking about that during the game, the fact that maybe at times like that, it's just time to put the ball under your shirt and run. Don't try offload. Don't try and be clever. We're not in this game. Just don't give them the ball. Just do the simple things. I mean, that's the way it works anyway. And because Rowley ball, he's fantastic when it works. We know it is. But if it doesn't, and I think I said it earlier in the season, you could easily come up with a spanking, and we did. We didn't keep hold of the ball at any point. I mean, dropping it from kickoffs and stuff like that's embarrassing. But just in general play, it seemed like we were trying to offload every time we got the ball, and it was like, at least have a couple of drives. Don't do it on the first tackle. You're just making yourself do more work. And Paul Rowley was right as well in the same way that he won't want to change his style. That's his style, and that's how he's going to play. It's up to the players to do the work. And if it's not working, then just don't keep trying the same thing. You're on the pitch at the time. You're in control of that game. Not the manager can't do anything once you're on that pitch. So just play what's in front of you from that point on. And he's right about bending your back. And just like Paul said, just put the work in. Tackle a man. It's not. That's the basics. And like I said before, I really felt for Paul because I heard a few comments about, Rowley this, Rowley do that, Rowley sort this. he's never had that while he's been in charge of us, and he definitely doesn't deserve it, because that on Friday night wasn't his fault. That's just purely the players not doing the job. And I said last week that this game against Wakey was pivotal to our season. I really thought it was. After 2 defeats, I thought if we could win away there with players missing, it'd set us up nicely for the rest of the season. You get a few bodies back. Now we're clinging on to this top 6. Saints are, I think Saints are still behind us, or even if they're ahead, but they've got a game in hand anyway, so they'll stretch away. So now we're looking down, and we shouldn't be after the season we've had so far. So it was a massively disappointing game. And Paul Rowley, like I say, he must have been pulling his hair out when he got home Friday night, thinking, "What have I just seen? That's not the team I coach. That's not the team he sees every day in training." And he said himself that, like you said earlier, and Paul said, the players we had on that pitch were good enough, not just to compete in that game, to win that game, and they just didn't do anything to merit that.
Yeah, talked about making a simple plan, and it just didn't work, Paul. And I suppose that's frustration on him, because obviously, like we said, short turnaround, no spine. It's going to affect what he thinks he can, make this team produce, doesn't it? So it would have been obviously a bit of a sickener for him, but got to bounce back.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to bounce back. You've got to put that work in, and at the end of the day, that's your job, isn't it? As a professional rugby league player, your job is to go out there and tackle. If I got my job and leave gas leaks everywhere, I get sacked. So you've got to go there and do the work, haven't you? And for whatever reason, that didn't happen. So you don't as a supporter, you shouldn't anyway chuck your toys out of the pram and disown the club. It's one of them things, you've just got to get on with it now. Accept. I mean, I was like that. You sort of come home from the match and you sulk a bit, don't you? And then the next day you're thinking about the next game, then, aren't you? And sometimes you see people in the match now, they have a right meltdown, don't they? Some of them in the stand on Friday, and it's like, this happens. It's sport. I get it, but yeah, we've got to go again now, haven't we? And we've got a tough game to go against Leeds as well. But like you said, it's one of them you want to move on from now. I mean, I didn't go to the press conference, so I don't know what Paul Rowley was like, but I've got a good picture of what you said and your interview with him as well. And you can't blame Paul Rowley for it. People in the crowd were moaning at Rowley. He's not missed any tackles. He's not out there. He sends his players out there. They've got to do a job, haven't they? So, like we've said there was enough quality out there. You had experience. Guys like Callum Watkins and Ken Seo, Tim Laffey and the rest of them. They Chris Atkin. They've been around the block, haven't they? So it was a funny performance. I wasn't expecting that. If I'm honest, I thought it'd be a close game. I thought we'd win the game, but to get walloped, the biggest defeat of the season, just took us all by surprise, I think.
Yeah, looking at the stats, this is interesting. This, Parker, total metre made. Okay, Ken Seo 190, Callum Watkins 117, Mark Sneed 101, King V 101, Dion Cross 110. Reece Williams 125, and Tyler Dupree, the best of the rest, at 59. So we always say, get over 100, you go in the right direction. Not this time.
I think the over 100 thing has to be for the forwards, though. The backs get more space. You know what I mean? Ken Seo, fullback, when he caught the ball 30, 40 yards, start. You know what I mean? I mean, Ken was, I'm not picking Ken out, by the way. I thought he was one of the very few that came out of the game with any credit. Yeah. It's forwards. And when you say there that Cal made 100 odd, well, that doesn't surprise me, because he never, he's always doing something. And King V was up there, but the next one's 50 odd. Yeah. I mean, that's not good enough. That's nowhere near good enough. And our forwards were bullied on Friday night. Absolutely bullied. I don't know what's going on. Yes, we missed Shane Wright, who is an absolute star, but he's out for the season. That you've got to forget that. Sam Stone, who's been tremendous for us, was missed. But they're not really the meter makers, are they? It's the big men in the front row that should be doing that. And I don't know what's wrong, but we just don't have that impact on the pitch. And that's where the problem is. I understand the backs are making meters, and they will do, but we need, the next time you read it out, if we have 5 forwards over 100 meters, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, that'd be more impressive. Like, whoa, that like you say, that's, you make your platform, you build your platform, don't you? And that's what your forwards are there for. If you can build a platform, your backs can play off the back of it, and that's how you score tries. top tacklers, Paul. Callum Watkins, 35. Mark Sneed, 22. Andrew Dixon, 36. King V, 30. Oliver Parton, 36. Adam Sidlow, 30. Ame Borough, 33. And Ben Helliwell, 33.
Surprising me that, because we missed plenty of tackles.
Mm.
That's a real surprising stat. That, like Park said about the forwards, I think for me, we've lost 3 games on the spin now, OKR, Wigan and the Wakefield game. And I think in all 3 matches, we have been bullied in the forwards, completely bullied. I thought Wigan had us at arm's length. I think the OKR game, we was poor at OKR. We got battered in that game, and there could have been a lot more. If Wakefield had had a bit more ambition and weren't as nervous and as desperate as what they were, they'd have got 50 points, I think, in that game. I think they took the 2 countless times. They were desperate. They were desperate to win, and you could see that they were a nervous team. So what we've got to do now is put that right, because if we don't, Leeds are going to get 40 points this weekend. They'll tonk us because they're playing well, and they've got a good pack of forwards as well. So we've got to do something different there, and I don't know what it is. We've got some decent forwards, but for whatever reason, it's not working. I mean, Jack Ormonroyd can't get in the team, can he, at the moment? He's been the 18th man, water carry. He's one of the biggest forwards we've got. So what's going on there? So I don't know. I don't know what the thing is there. I know the tackling numbers are pretty good there, but there was an awful lot of missed tackles. And sometimes you can read a lot into stats, don't you? But the biggest stat is the score.
Yeah, I just, like you say, is it a sign of the spiral? Obviously, you're running low. Certain people are running loads. You're making loads of tackles, but is it not playing intellectual? Is it just panic? Like we need to find a way to break the cycle here. That could be, something maybe, I don't know. Average gains: Parker, Kensio 10, Callum Watkins 11, King V 13, Tyler Durpree 8, Adam Sidlow 8, Ellis Longstaff 13, Ame Borough 9, and then Ben Helliwell 8.
Well, if you're getting over into double figures for each game, that's quite impressive, really. And Callum Watkins has appeared in all 3 so far, so he's doing his work in defence, attack, and everywhere else. So who's he covering for? Who's not doing that work? That's the problem that we've got to identify. And like Paul said, they're going back to the tackling one. I'd like to see the missed tackle stats, because he's probably nearly as many as them as there was tackles made last Friday night. And I don't want to keep banging on about him being negative, but that's how bad it was. Anyone who wasn't there, who didn't see it, believe me, it was bad. But yeah, with the average gains, the forwards again, yeah. I mean, I'm slightly surprised that it's that many, because I don't remember us making any meters throughout the game. But I mean, Cal Watkins is an absolute star. And you mentioned King V there getting, was it 13 meters per? I mean, that's quite impressive. But again, I didn't really notice that, I'll be honest. And then there is an anomaly here when we got Gerard back, which is fantastic news for us. We've missed him so much. But as a club who doesn't have any props, really, why Ormonroyd isn't involved? Is there a problem with him, or is it, because we need as many big men out there, or at least on the bench, to come on as we possibly can. And the other week against Wigan, I know it kind of worked in our favour when Ryan Braley got injured, but we're going with like Costello on the bench, and I'm not sure what that offers when you've got a centre on the bench, when you realistically you want a prop second row or somebody like that. So it'd be interesting to find out what's going on there with Jack, because people keep telling me how good he is. Personally, I think he's had a much lesser season than he had the back end of last season, much lesser. But he is a unit, and we need that in the team. So it'd be interesting to get to the bottom of that one.
Yeah, started season injured, didn't he? I think. Remember his first, was it 2 friendlies? He hurt his shoulder in both, so that might be a factor. Maybe he's finding, getting fit. Maybe that could be a thing. I'll ask Paul Rowley, see what he says. Big thanks for your 3 with match reports, man of the matches. Mark, poor discipline, predictable. He doesn't have a man of the match. Stuart, smart, lack of spine. King, Jay Mossington, utter dross. CO, Ben Wheeler, error. CO. Paul Whiteside's mate, Roy Ellaby, dismal, clueless, embarrassing, no man of the matches. CS, dip in form. Stephen Doyle, very, very poor. CO and Big Frank, too many errors, Paul.
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me was down to the attitude as well. There was a try that Wakefield scored. I think it was Kershaw, the winger, went over and they let him go down behind the post. And to me, that's sacrilege. That, you know, you stop him from going around the post, because we go around behind the post, it's an easy goal for him. And it was just little things like that. I thought there were so many unforced errors. I mean, I don't want to call players out and what have you, but Joe Burgess, I mean, he's a player who's low on confidence at the moment. I don't know what the answer is there with him. He's really struggling at the moment, and I like Joe, but his concentration levels in that game were poor. You know, some daft errors, throwing the ball in there and everywhere. And I don't know, there was a lot in that game where perhaps there's other players waiting for somebody else to do the business. I mean, one player I thought was outstanding was Ken Seal. I thought he just ran his blood to water him, and he was doing the work of three players at the time. So, yeah, it was a night to forget, really, at Wakefield. I mean, I didn't really have a man of the match. It was just one of them. I was waiting for the hooter to go, to be honest with you. And I think Wakefield's got the worst hooter going. You can't even hear it. It's like a really poor hooter, like a foghorn, wasn't it? But no, it was a night to forget, really. And I don't even think Wakefield were that good. I thought they were workmanlike. They were enthusiastic, and they brought that Fafita on. I think he only played about 10 minutes, but I thought Gale bossed it for them. He kicked well. Gale kicked. He punished. They were punishing kicks. They were turning us round. Our kicking game is garbage. Yeah. The last tackle play, you've got Sneed dollying the ball in the air for Burton. We never score from that. Yeah. And it's not testing the opposition. It's handing the ball straight back to them. We didn't make Wakefield work for that win. We rolled over, and it was like a backhander. Yeah, have the 2 points, Wakefield, and you have a chance of staying up. It was poor, and what's worrying me at the moment as well as the defence. The defence at Hull Care was rubbish. It was pretty poor in that second half against Wigan. We're starting to leak points, and for a team that's prided ourselves on defence, particularly last season, that seems to be going out of the window a bit now. And it's those good processes that we had seems to be disappearing a bit. That hard work that Paul Rowley's built this team on, and we always talk about the rolly ball, but you've got to build it on the hard work in the defence, because you're not going to win games by chucking the ball all over the show. You've got to do the spade work as well, and that seems to be disappearing. So this week's a big week now, to put it right.
Yeah. Moving on, our ladies were in action at weekend. They played Featherstone Rovers on the community pitches, went down to defeat. They lost 10 points to 30. I spoke to Red Devils forward Emerald Hickey about the game, and this is what she had to say. So we're joined by Salford Red Devils ladies star Emerald Hickey. Welcome to the show, Emerald. Looking forward to talking all about Salford Devils ladies. They were in action last week against Featherstone Rovers at home. Went down to defeat 30 points to 10. Obviously, talk us through it.
I think for me, as a team that I found with the games that we've had going on, we've come out all guns blazing, and we're 100% in. And, you know, the heart's always there, but sometimes it doesn't always come together. And I think that's kind of what happened with this game. In my eyes, we are equal to them. And if not, we could be better than them if we aren't already. But in that game in particular, I think we came out with our hearts, but we just didn't leave it on the pitch in that first half. You know, it just didn't seem to glue. It didn't seem to come together the way it did in the second half. Like the second half, it was so equally weighted. It was one-on-one. You know, there was no clear better team in that second half, and we gave everything we could, and it's just kind of hard when we didn't give it in that first half, in my opinion. And I'm sure, you know, the other girls will probably agree too. It's kind of hard to come away with a loss. There's a lot of things to learn from it. Personally, for me as well, we're able to watch the games back and kind of pick up, you know, on the things you did yourself. And then for the team on whole, it's always good to get a game, and even if it is a loss, to learn from it. And then we'll take it to them when we play at their home soon. Yeah,
it was. They raced into a 20-0 lead early on, but I've watched the game back. I don't think it was sort of a 20-0 sort of game for me. You were just caught with a bit of two sucker punch tries in the back end of that sort of first 25 minutes, which, you know, when you're playing against sort of Super League sides, that can happen, can't it?
It's 100%. They worked us a little bit in that first half. They picked us at the wing and kind of caught us out there twice in a row in about 7 or 8 minutes, if that. If you're looking at the first 10 minutes when I was watching it back, it's equally weighted. No one was getting anything. It was well played. And they just kind of caught us in a bad moment, and we didn't play off that the way we should have. And I think the good thing about our girls and our team is no matter what the score is, we're still coming out. We're still fighting for every try and every point. And that's what's amazing about this team. But in that game in particular, we let them get on top of us when we shouldn't have, because they ain't any better than us. And we definitely showed that in the second half, that we could, step up, show out and give a good game for obviously the crowd and for Salford.
Yeah, you got into the arm wrestle then just before half time. Our first try of the game, wonderful effort by Sage Bannister from the scrum, 80 metres, beat the cover, went under the post. I'm thinking one of the best tries of this season for me. Fantastic effort from her, and we're on the board just approaching half time.
Yeah, that was absolutely unreal. I have to be honest, I was on the bench then, and it's kind of hard when you're on the bench because it was quite far away from us, and I did think for a second that full-back was just going to grab her, but Sage, who's absolutely unreal, like myself, she's come in from Union, hadn't even seen a game of league, and Salford have took them under their wings, and has absolutely kind of mothered that ability to play some really good rugby. And she is, the kind of emphasis of what it means to come from a Union and be an Unreal League player, and that's something that I look up towards. And I think she is someone that everyone in the league needs to be keeping an eye out, because she is absolutely unreal. Defensively, she's a beast. And once she's got that ball in hand as well, you ain't catching her at all.
Yeah, she's a real finisher. You could tell. I could always think when you're watching wingers and centres who score tries, when they hit a gap, they're not looking. They just know where to run, and you could sense that. Like say, Featherstone came across, but total pace, burnt them on the outside. Wonderful try. We went in 26-6 down at half time. What was the changing room like? Was obviously Chris Bates not happy?
To be honest, give Chris his due. He doesn't come in there like, many coaches I've had in the past playing Union and stuff, and they don't come at you. He doesn't come at you the way a lot of them coaches do. He kind of errs on the side of, I'm disappointed, but what are we going to do to fix this? This is what we're going to do to fix it. This is how we're going to do it, and you're going to do it on that pitch. No questions asked, no if or buts. We're going to go and do it. So, he's very much about getting behind players who make those little mistakes and stuff like that. And when it comes to them changing rooms, that's no different. All three of them, Dawn, Matt and Bates, they're always about not what's happened, but what we can do from that. And they're always expecting us to be at that level. And when they're not, they don't hold us accountable, but rather they push us to get back to that level and go beyond that. And that's something that I really thrive off in the changing rooms, that environment of, you can do better than that. Why aren't you doing it? Let's do it. And I absolutely love that. And that's why I absolutely love being part of this team, because it pushes me to go out and put that fight up no matter what the score is. And I think the coach is doing a really unreal job with that.
Yeah. Second half started. We ramped up, like you said. And I thought we were a better team in the second half. I thought we had plenty of chances, tested them on the edges and down the middle. And obviously, like you said, they had a head start. But we went for them in that second half.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, that second half, no team was better than the other. And I think if anyone was, it was definitely us. We got into their heads a little bit. They didn't like it. They thought going into that second half, we've got this. They're going to, take a step back, take the loss. And I'm telling you, we absolutely weren't. We went out all guns blazing, every defensive line we were pushing up, every ball we wanted. And I think it went to show when we got them 2 scrums. And as a forward pack, we turned around to each other like, yeah, we're going to push. And twice on their try line, we forced mistakes.
Yeah.
And it got in their head so much. They were getting so aggy. And I think we really started to manipulate the game and play our game and make them play to our level. And I think that's what changed that second half. We had our hearts on our sleeves, but we forced them to play our game.
Yeah, we obviously pushed pressure on them. Brogan Evans went close. Lovely kick by Louise Fellenham, picked up by Alex Simpson, who crashed over in the corner. 26-10 with about 15 minutes to go. And at that point, we were all over him. We had chances. Darcy Price went on a rampaging run. Lauren Ellison nearly went over in the corner as well. Steph Grader tried disallowed. If you kind of add all them up, it's a closer game than the scoreboard suggests.
I think even them, there was more opportunities than that. There was more moments that they just caught us off. There was a moment, I'm trying to think who it was, who pretty much took the ball over the try line and put the ball down, and it was ball just knocked on, other than the one that Vicky did. So there were so many opportunities there and so many moments that tries could have come or should have come or did come that they never had in that second half. Where as soon as they got down in our half, they either unfortunately got the try or never made it down there. And I think for me, that's a testament to the team that we are and what we can be. And we are a team that people should keep an eye out for. And especially when it comes into them last, minutes, 10, 20 minutes of the game, because we ain't stepping back. We're going to keep pushing and we're going to go for every try.
Yeah. So 1-2, lost 2 at the moment in Super League. Obviously, you've got a good side there. You've come in and showed some sort of good form as well. Obviously, you must be looking forward to the rest of the season.
You know what? Coming into league has been an absolutely unreal experience. And it's not just coming into league, it's coming into Super League and that kind of step up for me. When I look at the teams we're about to play or the players we're about to play against, I don't think about them. I just think about us and what we can achieve and how confident I am in what we can do. I'm excited to play against Barrow this weekend. I've got someone I know in the team who I've never played against or with before, which is quite cool. So I'm excited to play against her because she's a really good contender. Her name's Emily. And then moving forward to other games in the season, there's teams and players we played against in Castleford. We absolutely brought it to them at their home ground, and I absolutely cannot wait until they come to us and we absolutely batter them in front of a massive crowd. I'm so excited for that. And I think any team, wherever they are in the league, whether they've been there a while or they've just come up like we have, anyone's for the taking. Any win can be a win. And I'm telling you now, Salford won it.
Yeah, I remember I watched that Castleford game. I remember you doing a bit of a show and go and bursting the line and then nearly running over the fullback as well in about 5. Castleford defenders jumped on you as well to stop the play. And obviously, like you say, you're a big aggressive forward and that's your game, isn't it?
Yeah, so when I got asked to come play league, I'd never ever played a game of league before I joined Salford. Always played union girl at heart, or was. And my friends who I played with at county or at union level club, the coaches were looking for strong ball carriers, kind of interactive players that can carry the ball and do it well. So they kind of blagged me and I wasn't too sure for a while. And I was like, oh, I don't know if league's for me. I'm not that fit. But they were like, no, come along, give it a little go. And to be honest, I'm glad I did because and I don't think I'll ever look back. It's a whole new sport on its own, and it is the same kind of thing as union, but it's just different. For me personally, with being a strong ball carrier in union, you give me them extra 10 meters to run onto the ball. I'm an extra ball carrier. I'm breaking lines. I'm punching through. I'm handing off. And to me, I absolutely love it. I can't help but want to just smash the girl in front of me.
Yeah, we can tell. Do you think rugby league sort of suits your style then more than rugby union? Obviously, you say you've come from rugby union. Is that where your background is?
Yeah, so rugby union, I always played football when I was younger. I went to university, played football in first year. And then as I went further on, one of the girls turned around to me and said, oh, why don't you give rugby a go? And I was like, oh, I'm not too sure about that. I was like, I'll go down and have a little go at the trials and see how that goes. And after my first trial, they were like, oh, you're not going. And at this point, I was 19, 20 before I even touched a rugby ball. And then I played 3 years at Union, captained in my last year, played at county level for Cheshire quite recently, played at club level. So I've had a good go and I've played for a fair amount of teams. But with league, as a prop in Union, I kind of find myself a little bit constrained, it's the right word, constrained?
Yeah.
I kind of find myself cooped into this, run the ball in, go down, run the ball in, go down. I like to do switches. I like to do dummies. I like to do something inventive. I like to draw players in, and league really allows me to do that. And I find it really exciting. I really enjoying it, especially with Lobby, the captain. She's always wanted to do double switches. She's always wanted to play some really interesting rugby, and that's something that I really wanted to be part of. Obviously, cardio wise and fitness wise, I don't think league's my sport in that sense, and I am working on that and I'm getting up to that, and I know that that's where my growth is. But when it comes to playing good rugby, I think I'm suited to league. And it's something that I think I'm going to take into union and absolutely smash it in my union season as well. So I'm quite lucky to have that balance of the both.
Little birdie told me you've been doing a bit of cardio today. You're playing tennis. Is that truth?
No, badminton actually.
Oh, badminton. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I kind of like to, I don't know about anyone else, but I kind of like to do cardio that's hidden. So you don't even notice you're doing it, but you do know you're doing it, but it's hidden in sport. So I like to play netball. I like to do a bit of badminton, and I managed to rope Megan, Sam and Brogan in this afternoon. So the four of us went for a 1 hour session on 2 badminton courts and did a bit of doubles. And you know what? It was brilliant. I loved it. And I would highly recommend anyone else in the team coming along, because it was quite fun, to be honest. And you don't even know how much you're burning and how many calories and what cardio you're doing until afterwards, when you're absolutely sweating.
Who's the best badminton player out of the four of you?
Oh,
that's a difficult question.
Given the scores of today, I would unfortunately have to say Sam.
Okay.
Even with that dodgy knee. But Brogan, she's unreal at that net. She's so quick, so nifty. You've seen her on the pitch. And to be honest, Meg hadn't picked up a badminton racket in about 8 years, and she was smashing it up at the back of the court. So to be honest, we're all sporty people, so it's hard to pick. But I would say Sam. She's the only one that I felt really had me going on the badminton pitch. And I've played with Sam before, and she's always beat me. So, you know, it's a worthy opponent there.
Yeah, very modest. I'd have gone me.
There's evidence to show it's not, so.
Yeah. Like I say, you're at Salford now. How did you move to Salford come about?
So, like I said, I play. So Brogan joined last season, and I played at county level with Brogan and Sam and Sage the year before, and I played at club level with Brogan and Sam as well. And through league, they invited Meg down to club level at Union, and she got involved there. And then it was them three, Brogan, Sam and Meg, that were kind of inching me and messaging me saying you should give it a go, go on, I've recommended you. And it's through them that I've been able to kind of come down. I recently in November passed my driving test.
Oh yeah.
If I hadn't passed my driving test, it would have been quite hard to get here, because it's a 50-minute round trip every time just to come and train or play games and stuff. And to be honest, they were a really good help in the beginning. And Beck as well, someone who isn't making team sheets at the moment because she's still injured. She's been unreal in supporting me and kind of getting to this level and helping me kind of find my way in things. And between all three of them, that's why I'm here. It's because of them that I'm doing what I'm doing now, and I'm part of something so special. So I'll forever kind of owe them that. And I'm kind of doing that for the next person who's coming along, which is Aoife, who made her debut last week. She played at county with us. I recommended and pushed her to come along. So now I'm her version of that. I drive her to training, I pick her up, I give her stash when she hasn't got any for game days and stuff. And it's just nice to be that person and kind of be the influence that brings other people into such an amazing team.
Yeah. Our forward packet is superb. Last season we were fantastic in the championship, got promoted. You've come in this year. Obviously you look at our forward pack. You know how big and how strong and how powerful it is. It causes sort of chaos, doesn't it, in the 4 games you played so far?
100%. You've got, I think for me, the big jump that I've found is when I've played. I know I keep coming back to Union, and it's a league podcast, but when I played Union, not always, but very often your bench isn't as strong as your starting team and not at the level that I've kind of played at in the past. Yeah. But when you're coming up to this sort of level and you've got your people like your Yaz and your Darcy and your Meg and your Abby and all that on the bench, that you're like, they're coming for my shirt or I want their shirt. It's an unreal step up. And the kind of mindset that I've had at the moment is I've got to keep fighting for my shirts. Darcy came on. She made reserve last week. A player couldn't get here because I spilt milk on the motorway. So Darcy dropped up from reserve to on the bench, and she came on and had an absolute steamer. Now, to me, that is unreal. That is absolutely great. She's had an amazing game. But on the other side, as it is, she's coming for my shirt. She wants my shirt. She wants that starting shirt. What do I need to do to make sure I keep that shirt? So as much as it's great bringing, you know, the likes of Aoife McKenna, who's brilliant and has took to league so well in her debut at the weekend, you're always thinking this is great for the team, but they're coming for my shirt. And it's a great position to be in, but it's also equally threatening at the same time.
Yeah. What's your targets for 2023?
To be honest, for me, the good thing about, we have a thing called Huddle where we can watch games back and kind of pull things up and see how we do and stuff. And I'm very aware of my abilities, where I go wrong, when I do well and stuff like that. And I thrive in them. But when it comes to a target, it would be to last a full 40-minute half. And I'm not that they expect me to do that, because it's not what happens. But for me, it's to reach a point where I am so defensively pressive that I am forcing them middles to make mistakes repeatedly in a game, and I'm keeping that up for a solid 40 minutes is my target. What I need to work on is cardio. And if I achieve that by the end of the season, I'll be made up. It doesn't matter the amount of runs I make, how much ground, if I score any tries. If I get to a point with my cardio that Batesy turns around to me and says, that's it, absolutely smash that. That for me is a target, and I think it's achievable if I keep at it.
I suppose it's about evolving your game. Like you say, you're playing more rugby. You want to become fitter so you can last longer on the field and do more runs. So obviously it's a journey. The team's on a journey, and so are you.
Yeah, 100%. The developments, I came in January, and my trials lasted 6 weeks because I work in hospitality. So getting training days off was so hard in the beginning for my trials. So four or five trial dates turned into a 6-week period, and I'm glad they held on and kind of kept me there. But the development that I've seen within myself from January, February to now, to me, is unreal. And then I can appreciate it. I may not know league like the other girls, but I can fully appreciate the development in the other girls, the ability, the growth in them, the hard work that they've put in, the things that I see in training and the things that they achieve. I can see it among everyone. And to be honest, I don't think it's stopping. Everyone after every game's stepping up, next level. And it's just unreal to see it. And to be honest, it comes down to the coaching. It genuinely does. And like I said, I've never known coaching like it. I've never known a leadership team like it. Everyone's supported and pushed to be their best selves. And this is the best environment for that. So I see it within myself. I'm seeing it within players, and I'm already seeing it in Aoife, who's been in the team 2 weeks. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. Barra at home this week, Sunday midday kickoff. Obviously, trying to bounce back from last week's defeat.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've already looked at the weather, because that hot heat, as a prop my size, I absolutely cannot handle it.
Yeah.
It showed in that game on Sunday. 30 minutes to me was okay. Give me 30 minutes in 25-degree heat, and I'm absolutely knackered. So I've already looked up the weather, and you'll be excited to know it's not hot.
No.
Might be a little bit of rain, which is quite exciting for me. Probably not for the backs. But it's exciting to get out against another new team, and it's exciting to see what they can bring at us at home and how we can take it to them. So every game to me is really, really exciting. Barrow, I've put up a good front already. They've got some really good players. They've got some really good ability within their team. They've got strong runners, strong mindset, and a really good, strong control within the leaders within their team. So it's going to be nice to see how we can come up against that, how we can match that, and to be honest, how we can beat it, because it's 100% doable.
Have you got any other pre-match rituals apart from Google appling the weather?
Me, I have this weird thing where you might see it on the videos of the games. I have to smack my shoulders, smack my legs, smack my calves, like pump myself up to get ready to be hit. And you'll hear it across the pitch. I'll just start smacking myself. I know it sounds really weird. I've done it since I've been at every time I've ever started, and I'm just trying to kind of get myself going, get the adrenaline going. A lot of people have wraps where they'll write things on and stuff like that. But for me, just a little slap of the thigh. and I'm buzzing to go and ready to hit some girls.
Yeah, not in an anger way, not in a panto way, more of an anger way.
Yeah, just get myself buzzed up, get myself going, get muscles ready to get absolutely battered. So yeah, that's all I do really. I'm not one that sits with the headphones in or, you know, has a little read like some of them do. You'd be surprised. Or, you know, has a little walk around the pitch. I just, get my muscles warmed up and I get excited to hit girls. So for me, that's how I get myself going.
Yeah. Like you say, Barrow on Sunday on the community pitches, hoping for a big crowd, obviously with the men playing on the same day. Emerald Hickey talking to myself, Parky, about the defeat against Featherstone Rovers. Obviously disappointed with the result. She says that, you know, they worked hard and matched Featherstone in many departments throughout the game, but unfortunately went down to defeat.
Yeah, speaking to Vicky Kinney and Helena Walker on Monday night, they both sort of admitted that we're struggling to start games at the moment, and it's the same in any, you know, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at. If you give teams a start, you're always going to struggle. Featherstone are a team that's been around for a while. The women's team, they've got some really good talent in there. And we just let them off the hook again. You know, we've let them get out the starting blocks before us, and but like they explained that, you know, we still got players there who are playing the first couple of games of rugby league. They come from rugby union, they cross over. Getting used to everything about the game is different. The tackling style, obviously, in rugby union as well, they've got a trial of how high you can tackle now and all that kind of, you know, it's getting your brain to go through all that, and we're still learning. We're still a young team. I don't mean just in age. I mean as a unit, and these games are learning games. This is where and the girls are understanding where we're going wrong. They know that, like say, they're starting slowly. They're not quite into the game. Maybe there is a difference in the step up of quality. We get that. You know, this is sort of Super League compared to the Championship, but they understand, and they're working hard to get it right each week, and they're trying to get more players in and then educating them in the game. These girls at Featherstone have been playing the game for God knows how long. They know it inside out, and you give teams a start, and that's what's going to happen. And we are learning, but we're still in there. We're not. I know the scoreline probably doesn't. You know, at 30-10, you think, oh, it's a bit of a, but it's not. It's not like that. You just can't give someone a 20-point start and try and win a game. But obviously, in certain patches there, we must have matched them.
Yeah. 2 tries from us, one from Sage Bannister, one from Alex Simpson. The Sage Bannister try, Parker, unbelievable. Basically, for the people who wasn't there, haven't seen it, Salford had a scrum on their 20. We went short side. Bannister collected the ball, burst the Featherstone line, raced 90 metres to the corner, followed by 5 or 6 Featherstone players, beat the cover, went round under the posts. Possibly best individual try of the season for me.
Yeah, it was a superb try. Absolutely. The pace was unbelievable. Like you say, you saw them all chase. It was like Keystone Cops.
Yeah.
Everyone's after her, trying to get hold of her. Brilliant. And the way she split the line in the first place, she'd seen the gap, and just slid through it unbelievably. And then it's just a foot race to the line, and she was so quick. And like you say, the right frame of mind there to go around under the post as well, rather than just taking the easy option. Brilliant. And they're the glimpses of individual quality we've got. And the other thing is, the girls mentioned the other night, that apparently this season we haven't had the same starting lineup, not once, because of injuries or players not being available. So you're never going to get continuity. The players are going to be playing, your halfbacks might have a different halfback with them, or centre wing partnerships, or whatever it is. And it takes time to build them relationships. And it's easy in training. But when you get out there on the park, you need to know who's there and who's going to be doing what. And at the moment, we're struggling to get bodies on the park. And that's another issue. But it'll come, and it won't be this year. We forget how quickly we came on last year. I think we all probably, myself included, we're a little bit probably taken aback, but then pushed ourselves into a position where we're not at that level yet. And it's like I said the other night, I mean, people were mentioning there, and the girls got a huge round of applause because of the dedication and effort they're putting in. They're not getting paid for this. They've got Vicky Kinney mentioned, obviously Ken Seal's wife, who plays in the back row for us. That, you know, she looks after the kids most of the time. She's got other work to do, you know, and obviously look after Ken.
Yeah,
and I can imagine that's quite tricky at times. Having spoken to Ken the other night, but but you know, they've got other commitments, and yet they put up like 3-4 times a week for training. Then on a match day, you know, it's still, unfortunately, it's still an amateur game, and so it's going to take a while for it to get to that level. And when you watch the Super League teams like Wigan and Leeds, York, Saints, and you think, wow, they make it look easy, you know, in the women's game. That's where we're trying to get to, but it's going to take us a while, and I think we just need to realise that now and know that we are going to get a few, you know, there are going to be defeats along the way, but it's all about learning, and they are doing. And like I say, having spoke to them the other night, you can see that, and you can see the passion in them. They want to succeed, and they want to succeed together.
Yeah, the Alex Simpson try, Paul, captain fantastic, Louise Felham, little kick through, ball sat up nice for Alex Simpson, who collected it and dived over in the corner. But like for that's 15 minutes at the end, it was like the Alamo. We sat on their line and we really tested them. And obviously, like we said, the first 20 minutes and the lead that Featherstone built, they needed it at the back end.
Yeah, clinging on, I think, a bit there, weren't they, Featherstone? But they'd done a bit of good work to get into that lead. But I think the Salford ladies show that we got the quality. You know, some of the tries that they're scoring, like we said before, it's a difficult step up as well, and you can't always just go from where you were last season and you know straight in and dominate at that level. That you've got to work at things, haven't you? It's not the end of the world, so they're just going to keep getting better and better. And I'm sure they will. They're showing some good signs there, aren't they? So, as you said, I think as things go on, they'll be in a better place next season.
Yeah, so that's our look back at both matches this weekend. And now we'll look and see what's happening in the World of Rugby League and Salford Devils. So we'll start, Parkit, with the big news that the RFL lost £1 million in 2022-2023. Payments for the clubs have been reduced. Positive is the participation levels are up, which is great, but still a massive chunk in everyone's finances.
Well, I know we'll come on to it shortly as well, but it doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. I know we hosted a World Cup, which is, you know, also I don't know what accounts that's going to come out of at what point. And like you say, participation is up. Because, I mean, you look at our club alone. We've gone from having just the first team to having a reserves, a women's team, PDRL, LDRL, wheelchair, whatever. So if that's going on across the board at professional level, you know, what's going on with the amateurs, you know, and all that. So, yeah, that's fantastic news. And we all know that rugby league's a brilliant game, whether you're playing or watching it. I don't think there's any sport like it. And yes, I am biased, but I don't care. But the way the RFL is run is still like an old committee at a conservative club or something, you know, a working men's club. It's still old boys doing silly things and making silly decisions. There are so many ways they could have saved money and don't. And yet this is for an organisation that doesn't do much to promote the sport as far as I'm concerned. And the main bugbear I've got, and like I say, we're going to come on to it, is getting a TV deal, getting a decent sponsorship deal, you know, with a sort of blue chip company. I don't mean a TV set. I mean, like, you know, no disrespect, we have like Mushy Peas and things like that sponsor. It's not selling the game, and it's not going to bring in mega bucks to spread, to go to all the clubs, then down to the amateurs and everywhere else. Although the money should start at the amateurs and come up, but that's a different matter. And it makes it harder for clubs, I think, to go out and get a sponsor, because you go and ask a sponsor in the area. We've been great, you know. We've got Selco there, a nationwide company, but you go out and ask someone and say, "Will you sponsor our club?" or you know, however it happens, and they go, "Well, what do we get? Where's our coverage? What are we going to make out of this?" So you pulling money in as a club is difficult, but it's got to start at the top with the RFL, and it doesn't surprise me that they've lost money. There are people working in that organisation who, for me, I probably wouldn't let work in a charity shop.
Paul, how does the sport turn itself around?
With great difficulty, Rob. I think it's been run pretty poorly for a long time now, since I've been watching it anyway. So it's difficult because, like Parky said before, it's a minority sport in this country, really. You know, we're not global, we're not massive. You know, we're in a small area. They've tried to spread it, haven't they, and get it everywhere, but it's not, is it? You know, it's a really difficult question. I wish I knew what I was going to ask me this, and I could have prepared for it. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure how they go about it. I think, like Parky said, I don't think we sell the sport, you know, short sometimes, don't we? And you know, some of the sponsorship deals that we get. I mean, go back a few years ago, weren't we sponsored by Eddie Stolbat? He's like, oh, he won't give us any money, but he'll put some pictures on the wagons and that. And it's like, hang on a minute, who's running the show? Peter Kay. It's like Phoenix Nights or something. And it's just naff the way it is. And I don't know. Parky's right. It is a bit like the old boys club, isn't it? Some of the people that are there running it. I mean, like this IMG thing that you're probably going to talk about. They've sold the soul to that, right? How many millions of pounds are they paying for this private company to come in and tell us how to run our sport? It's like, why have you given them all that money for them to tell you the obvious? They're telling you stuff, and you're going on about stuff that was done years ago, like this, you know, point scoring. It's just like that framing for the future for the end of the 90s. So you paid millions of pounds for them to tell you how to run your own sport. So I don't know. I'm just a gas man. I don't know these things, but I probably have a better way of running it than they're doing. So, but you asked me the question, what's the answer? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to make things better, but you can't run it any worse than what's being run.
I think for me, clubs, players, and organisation need to work together. They need to put sport over self to start with, which basically means there will have to be sacrifices. People will have to feel the burn, both at sort of the club level and sort of player level. Professional rugby league, you know, has it failed? Because obviously it's been going since mid sort of late 90s, trying to be professional, and the competition is better, but are we reaching out to an audience there who know what we're about? Because at the moment, for me, it's just insular. All we talk about is to each other, not people outside our bubble, and that's the problem with rugby league. And how do you fix that? I don't know. Obviously, I agree with the clubs, what the club is doing, like helping the players, you know, looking after their careers after they started to, you know, finish playing. And that's a big thing, which hopefully that can grow and players can, you know, improve as people and as players. So Parky, it's a difficult situation that everybody has a finger in, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
You know what, Rob? You just said something there that I've never thought of, and it's absolutely spot on. You said as professionalism failed. Yes, because being professional doesn't just mean paying players not to go to work. It means the whole sport, everything to do with clubs. When we all went full time in the 90s, the clubs behind them were amateur. Do you know what I mean? We were still running. We're a perfect example of that. You know, we were running with 3 members of staff or something. We had no, whatever it was in the 90s. We were off the park. Nothing was professional. It's okay giving players full-time jobs and saying that's it. You don't work anymore. You play rugby league. You're a professional. The word professional doesn't just mean that. Everything's got to be professional. And we weren't, and most clubs weren't. You know, don't forget, Wigan were a professional club for all the way through the 80s, basically, before anybody else. Leeds slowly got into it and so on. But it's what you do off the pitch that makes you professional. You know what I mean? I think, you watched it on Friday night, you could have got 17 players out of the championship to put in a performance like that. So that wasn't professional, but that's a different matter. But you've made a very good point, and no, the sport isn't professional enough. Still isn't, I don't think. But that comes from the very top, from the RFL down. And that was never put in place at the time. And like Paul said about framing the future, that was the opportunity back then with Maurice Lindsay and people like that. And it got poo-pooed a little bit, didn't it? And sort of, you know, we don't want this, we don't want that. I think the idea was right, but it's all about the clubs not looking after self-interest at that time, going, if this changes now, we can't keep up, we can't be part of that, so we won't get involved, which isn't good for the sport. You know, and there's another point to that. You're going about us losing money. I know it's Super League and it's separate to the RFL, but I'd like to see the figures come out for the Magic weekend as to how much it costs and how much we actually make. Is it worth it? Now, the thing is with Rugby League, and you said it yourself, it is very, we said it is insular. And you say anything negative about Rugby League to another Rugby League person, and you're wrong. Rather than, you can't question the sport. You can't question anything. Oh, you're just being negative. Somebody says, I don't think the expansion has worked in these places. Oh, you're one of them. It's just, you're a flat capper. You don't want it to move. Of course we do. Everybody, I want the whole country play. I want the whole world playing Rugby League. But it's got to be done right. You don't just drop a team in a place and say, there you go, there's your team. What's behind it? Who's their rival? What's going to, and that's what Rugby League has done wrong for years. And nobody's ever been sort of held, accountable for all this. And we can't afford to lose any more money because there's not enough money in the sport.
Yeah, I think, like you say, there's too much money going out of the sport through players' wages and other things, Paul, and agents and all, and everything that entails a professional sport. And it's difficult, obviously. Players will. It's only a short career in it. They'll want to have a nest egg when they retire or when they go on to other things. So I understand why the players will want to get as big a wage as you can. But like I said before, are you killing the sport? Because the sport hasn't got the infrastructure, like Parky said, to fund that.
Do you know what? One of the massive faults with Rugby League is what I've noticed over the last few years is the international game, right? Your game, really, that should be the pinnacle. That's what, it's from that downwards, really. And to me, when it all started spiraling out of control, Rugby League, when that went, I mean, you go back to the sort of the mid-'80s when I first started watching, 90s, you were getting huge crowds at Old Trafford, Wembley, places like that, watching test matches against Australia. I know we don't have tests anymore because Australia can't come. That's another story. But since the Super League started and things like that, our sport has become so parochial. All these people are bothered about is Wigan and St Helens. We can't let our players go and play international Rugby League because they might get injured and we need them for the Wigan Saints derby. And that is what people have got. They're only interested in their own team now. They're not bothered about the international game and test matches and things like that. And that's the way we've gone. And that is why Rugby Union has completely took over Rugby League because their international game's gone through the roof.
Yeah, but Rugby Unions is also in a mess because I think 4 of their top flight clubs have gone bankrupt in the last 18 months. Yeah. I know that their salary cap is like 3 times ours, but still has professional sport failed, full stop?
But for me, that's one of the big problems that comes with extending salary cap all the time.
Yeah.
The clubs who don't have it will have to try and keep up. And that puts you at major risk of going back to where we were 20, 30 years ago.
Yep.
So that you've got to be careful of that. Just going back to what Paul said about the international game, it's something that I asked Ken Seo on Monday night about. Obviously, he was part of that Samoan squad. They had a wonderful World Cup, made the final. What a great advert for Rugby League that is, that a small nation like Samoa made a World Cup final against the mighty Australians. And I said, was he disappointed in the fact that there's no plan after that? The French World Cup looks like it's been binned because they can't afford it. What was the next step? For me, you strike while the iron's hot, and the international game was flying. And we should have said, right, in I don't know, April, May, there's a tournament, whether it's a European tournament or whether it's, whatever it is. I know we've got Tonga coming up at the end of the year. But why aren't we playing? I mean, we played France in it. Playing France at the moment is an absolute waste of time. I think French international rugby is worse than it was 20 years ago. They've not progressed at all. We put a team out last time, like Paul said, certain players weren't allowed to play. We put out a kind of B team, if you like, and absolutely hammered them. Now you come up against the Samoans or the Fijians or the Tongans or whatever. Put a tournament together with them guys in. You'll see a tournament. You'll see something. Let's go again. It's exotic. It's a bit. Get the international game flowing. Let France go and play Scotland and Ireland and Wales and get there. Nothing. There's no plan. There's no idea. And Ken said he was disappointed. He sees Rugby League playing for his country. As he said, that whole World Cup thing was the biggest thing that happened in his career, being part of that squad. That's how players feel. But they get let down, like fans get let down by the people who organise it. And that's, again, it's going back to these people at the top. Don't just go, oh, we'll have a World Cup, didn't we do well? Pat ourselves on the back and that's it. Go again. Get international companies involved. Then you've got money. Then you can pay players more. I've got no problem with players earning money. They deserve it. They're absolutely brilliant. They're athletes. What they do week in, week out is fantastic. And they don't get paid enough in my eyes, but the sport can't afford to pay them. So you're right. Yeah. Maybe professionalism has failed.
Yeah. I think with rugby union, they have like autumn internationals, don't they? Where I think it's like South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all come over and play each home nation, don't they? And I think that's what we should be looking to do with the likes of Samoa and Tonga, just to give everyone a competitive game. And like you say, draw the crowds in, a bit of an interest, and that's what we need to do. But like I say, we've just lost £1 million. There isn't much money to fly. I don't know, 4 squads over toward the other side of the world. Plus, both sort of seasons run sort of parallel, don't they? So their team are going to miss players, aren't they, as they come flying over here? So it'd be interesting to see sort of what happens there. Looking at obviously Salford centric, Paul, are we the best candidate for how a rugby league club should be run? I mean, we're well under the cap. We haven't got a big benefactor. We're community run. I saw a sort of a table of how much each club assets are worth, and we were sort of at the bottom with 300k compared to other clubs that had millions of pounds of assets you could use. And we're trying to build a club in a society, in and around the society, which is exciting. So are we sort of the benchmark what other clubs should be looking at?
Do you know what? Sometimes I think, does it matter? I mean, all clubs are different. It's like I think Parky mentioned it last week about it's like Brentford compared to Manchester United, and rugby league seem obsessed with this. Like we've all got to be. It's like communism. We've all got to be equal and spot on. Well, it's not a word. Life doesn't work like that. Life's not sort of. It's not, everything's not equal, is it? Things are different, and I think sometimes rugby league don't get that, and people who run rugby league don't get that. And it's like with all this IMG stuff, I don't get a lot of it. I think I don't know, it's mind blowing, isn't it? But it's not. It's never going to be like that. So for to answer your question, I think are doing the best with what tools they've got and the materials they've got. So if you've not got a big benefactor and loads of money, then what do? You've just got to cut your cloth accordingly, haven't you? And I think that's what the club's doing. But for the rugby league, I mean, you're never going to get every single team getting 20,000 every week and having loads and loads of money, because sport doesn't work like that, does it? Doesn't it? Any sport's not like that. You've got Premier League football; they don't all sell out every week and have billions of pounds. It's just that's life. So I don't know. Waffling a bit here, aren't I? But you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, Parky, thoughts? Are Salford the best model for a rugby league club?
I think what we're going to find, I just want to say, by the way, Luton Town got promoted this year to the Premier League. Look at their ground, look at their crowds. Nobody's complaining about it, are they, in the Premier League? No one's saying, they shouldn't come up. So why can't Featherstone come up? You know what I mean? Why are Featherstone going to probably get blocked so they can have Bradford? It doesn't make any sense. Absolute nonsense. And that's rugby league. My pit village is better than yours. But yeah, I think I think a lot of teams are going to find this in the not too distant future, Rob, that Huddersfield rely heavily on a man who's put his life and soul into that club. He won't be around forever. Castleford have had the same thing, benefactor. Wakefield with Michael Carter, who's done a wonderful job for him for a long time. These people are going to drift away. Then what? There aren't investors waiting out there at the moment. It's virtually impossible. We've just seen it. We've had to raise 300,000 through the fans to get this, to keep this club afloat, really, and to give us a new direction. And I think in the next few years, you'll see a lot of clubs sort of go, when they were taking the mick that Salford, they need the fans to bail them out. I think you'll see them check themselves and go, do you know what? We might have to do what they've done. Because there isn't that man out there or woman out there that's going to put millions in for us. So I think, yes, I think we are. We're certainly a good case study. as to how it goes forward and how it works. If we're successful, I can fully imagine half the Super League clubs becoming like us, and only the mega rich, the Simon Morans of this world, and the guys at Leeds and Wigan, places like that, being an owner, just an owner. I think you'll find that that's the way rugby league will go, and possibly more sport, because there are football teams who have already done this. So we're not a bad example. Are we the perfect? We'll have to wait and see in the next 12 months when it all kicks in and how it's going to work. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I'll say that.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Eyes are on the story to see what happens. Moving forward, Paul. We talked about the ING update. Everyone's doing the calculations how each club, stack up and how we're going to keep our place in Super League. Another good story, I thought, interesting story, was the potential new TV deal, which might be taking place between Dance Channel 4 and Sky Sports. I've always said we need more eyes on the prize and the product of rugby league. Them 3 channels, hopefully showing good games, will do that.
Yeah, and they can't do any worse than what Sky Sports are doing, because I think their coverage is rubbish. What I've seen this season, it's really poor. So I've loved the Channel 4 coverage. I think they've done a really good job. Really exciting when they've been on. But yeah, I think it does. I think sometimes we sell our soul to Sky, and you look the way Sky, obviously they put the money in, but it's like the way they move the games around, and you have these Thursday night games and things like that. We seem to have sold our soul to them and just a puppet for them, really. When they need a slot to fill, put rugby league on, we shift them to Thursday night. So yeah, I hope we do get a better deal. I really do, because there are a lot of channels out there now. I know that Viaplay do a good job, don't they? I think they're the old Premier Sports. I've watched a bit of the Championship games on that. So yeah, I think it does need a bit of a shake up, and don't. My sort of thing to the rugby league would be, don't put all your eggs in the Sky basket. Let's just have some other channels having a bit of a say as well, and when the game should be.
Yeah, the devil is always in the detail, Parquet, and obviously we don't know at the moment how much clubs are going to be paid by like the Dance and Channel 4 when they are broadcast. But it is important that the clubs are given some juice, because they obviously will lose revenue because people watch at home.
Yeah, well, the thing, DAZN is boxing, isn't it, mainly? But it doesn't really have its own channel as such. It just sort of takes on for other channels, records it for other channels. But anyway, it can't do any harm having more broadcasters. Sky do have a monopoly, and for me, in the last 5-6 years, I've treated rugby league like garbage. Absolute garbage. So we need a new direction. We need new broadcasters. And like Paul said, Channel 4 have been brilliant, but there's not enough of it. And it is free to air. So, there is no money in that for anyone, really. It's how we need more people to get involved. We'd like a bidding war between Sky and BT and somebody else, but I don't really know. We don't do that. Sky have done. This is something I've always said. It's like, if you don't want to do something, do it badly once and no one will ask you again. Now the thing is that Sky could make a real hash of rugby league, and people go, I'm not taking over. That's rubbish, because it's not presented correctly. But then you think, well, why would Sky want to present it? Because then somebody might come in and want to buy it, and then they'll have to put their money up to keep all the rugby. So are they doing it to their own end? Do you know what I mean? Are we trapped? And we keep signing stupid deals with them, the RFL, because they don't have the vision to look outside. I think it's one of the only few things that Kukash said that made sense at the time. We signed a deal a few years ago. He said we never even spoke to anybody else. As soon as Sky went signed there, we went, yeah, okay. But we do need more. And the thing is with DAZN as well is pay-per-view. Now, is that the way forward? Will people pay for each game? Well, no, because you're going to pay mainly and watch the big games and possibly, just your club. So how would you get a subscription going? I don't know how it's going to work, but I just hope we do open the doors and other people come in. There are other TV broadcasters out there. But whatever happens, by the way, it's another bugbear. The French have to be in it, because you can't watch your team if you don't go, you can't watch your team in France. You go. There's no coverage, no radio coverage, no nothing. How can a professional sport do that? And yet you watch football and rugby union and everything else. It doesn't matter what it is. It's on somewhere. You'll find it. Rugby league doesn't have that. French needs its own deal. Are you Super League or not? I don't understand why you have a separate deal. You're either in or you're not. So we need that sorted. And so it'd be nice if somebody from somewhere else would come in and take over the sport and do it properly. I've never understood why Sky Sports never give it a rugby channel, by the way. And you've got golf, Formula One, cricket, anything else you want, even a darts channel for a week every now and then. You could put rugby league and rugby union on the same channel and have its own channel. And if you're only playing reruns, you could still do it, but they're not interested in promoting the sport. So we need to move, and we need to move quickly to save the sport for me.
Yeah, I think the French thing might be more of a me over we, because if the French were to come and join our TV deal, the amount of money we get off Sky, we'd have to divide that by 2. So we'd have sort of a bit less. So that might be something. But like I said before, we need to sacrifice. There's got in the world we live in now, everybody is sacrificing, aren't they? And rugby league is the same for me. So moving on, let's talk about Salford now. We've had our chat about general rugby league. Let's move on to the schools tournament, Paul, on the 16th of July at the Salford Stadium. School year 6, year 7, year 8 and year 9s. That club are asking teams to get involved in that. You get a match ticket. It all sounds very exciting. I think it's for the league game.
Yeah, sounds good, and that's what we've been doing really well, haven't we, with schools rugby league, junior rugby league as well. I mean, it's always great when you see the youngsters playing on the pitch, especially at the AJ Bell half time. I think it's brilliant, Matt. I mean, as a kid when I used to play rugby league, I'd love to have done something like that, play at Salford's ground. But yeah, that's great news. You've got summer holidays coming up as well, and the more we get to see the youngsters, the better.
Yeah, we always talk about how well the foundation doing the community parking. This is another example.
Yeah, I don't know how it falls with the holidays and so on. They're still in school at that point, because that's always a difficult thing, getting schools involved in the summer, isn't it? It's kind of like it's out of our term, so we don't have to get involved. But a club, again, we can't fault them. They're trying. You get them in for the game. They can, like you said, they get to play, around the stadium. They get to see how it all works, and it is encouraging. I mean, schools rugby, I've mentioned God knows how many times, when I went to school, it was rubbish. It was half-hearted and nobody got involved. Not even, I mean, to be fair, not even, Salford Rugby League Club were that bothered about it. You might get the odd player every now and then coming to visit your school, but that'd be it. But now the interest in, and, the effort they put in to make sure the schools are involved. And we mentioned the other week, what was the school? St. Phillips, was it? So, made the national final, things like that, through help from us, and that's the way it's got to be. And if we can get the kids involved young, get them playing at school level, get them involved in local amateur clubs, they'll stay rugby league fans forever in one way or another. Or you might find the next Adrian Morley. You just don't know.
Talking about Adrian Morley, he is the guest in the Platinum Dining Club on Sunday when we play Leeds. You can get to hear him being interviewed, have a 2-course meal. All sounds very exciting, Paul.
Yeah, I interviewed Adrian Morley a few years ago for the Supporters Trust. I went to meet him at Swinton Park Golf Club, and he was a lovely bloke. Sat outside in the sun for him for about an hour and told me about all his career in Australia. He's a very, very interesting man. Really interesting man. He's done so much in the sport. One of those players that is sort of loved in Australia. They laugh at us sometimes, the Aussies, don't they? But they don't laugh at Adrian Morley. They totally respect him, don't they? So he's a bit like that Gareth Ellis. He's the same, isn't he? He's loved over there. So yeah, he'll have some great stories. And he played for both clubs, didn't he, as well? He had a good time at Leeds, Rhinos, didn't he, before starting his career, really, wasn't it? He started at Leeds. So yeah, it'd be good to see Adrian back. I saw him on Sky last week, actually, at the Warrington and Leeds game doing his summer, and he's still massive, isn't he? He really is a big bloke. You won't like a right hook off him, but yeah, I bet he's really good.
Yeah, so if you're interested in that, £75 a head, or I think it's £500 for 8 people, Parker. If you're a part of the 1873 club, you can upgrade to that for £30.
Yeah, well, I mean, Adrian Morley, I've listened to several podcasts with him on, and like Paul said there, he's one of the few players, certainly from over here, that's still adored in Australia. And I think you'll find over here, I know he had a streak in him, but if you ask a rugby league fan, there aren't many players that everybody from other clubs would agree with as being, a great or whatever. I think for me, the likes of Jamie Peacock and possibly like a Sam Burgess and Gareth Ellis, like you say, and Adrian Morley go in that mould where you go, yeah, you were brilliant, but you played the game. Do you know what I mean? And you're going on about him being massive. It's quite funny because he helps coach my niece's under sevens team or whatever it is, and you want to see the guy with the kids, and he is an absolute star with him. He's brilliant. You wouldn't think you're talking to a legend of rugby league, a man who probably couldn't walk around Sydney without getting mobbed. He can walk around Eccles and not have a problem, but you see him with the kids. He's absolutely brilliant. He puts everything into it, and his lad plays for him. And by the way, we want to keep an eye on his lad. He's got a future, that kid. Him along with the two COs and a laugh at. It's not a bad team that he gets to coach.
Yeah, I interviewed Adrian Morley once on a building site, Paul. Just sort of wandered past and I thought, I know you. And then he recognised me and I thought, just interview you. Can't remember what he talked about, but it was about a good 5 minutes. He had time for me as well, which was great. So yeah, good chatter. If you can get involved in that. Other news, the 150-year film location has moved. It's been moved to Pendleton College, same date, 22nd of July, Parker. It's going to be exciting, that.
Yeah, it does. I spoke to John Blackburn on Monday, and he told me about the change of venue. There are issues around it, but I'm really looking forward to it. I've got to get my ticket sorted. I'll have to do it tomorrow or Friday. I'm interested to see what it is. Obviously, it's going to be along the lines of the Willows memories, but 150 years, so that'll be good. The interviews with certain people and whatever. So. I'm quite looking forward to that. It should be a good night. It's going to be a few ex-players turning up and hopefully maybe a few current ones. I don't know, but it could be a good night. And like I said the other week, we don't get together that often as fans these days in terms of, non-match days or anything like that. So this is a great chance to have a catch-up with people you might not see for a while and have a chat. So, yeah, it should be a good night.
Yeah, very exciting. £12 a ticket. Paul, I'm hoping they'll get a big turnout.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, because the Willows memories was great. We went to Lowry to see that, and it was a terrific film. And I think my dad's got it on DVD actually as well. So it's I'm sure this one will be just as good, if not better. So I think you'll get a lot. I know the venue's changed, but like we were saying off air before, it still holds a few hundred people there at the college. So I reckon it'll be a belting night. That it's a Saturday as well, isn't it? The 22nd.
Yeah. Going to be exciting, like you say, parky opportunity for everyone to get together and watch the film and enjoy the one factor of the 150-year celebration. Final bit of news: we've got the club have announced a new thing that if you're a fan, you can do. You can have a tunnel experience, which means basically you can go into the players' changing room before the match, talk to the players. And even join in with the winning song if we do win on that day. £1,500 if you want to do that. Parker, obviously you spent a lot of time in the changing rooms as a youth. So did you have any great experiences in there?
It was a bit difficult at the Willows. The changing rooms were that small. Once you got the team in, I was in there, and you had Kevin Ashcroft and the kit man, I think, and that was about it. You couldn't move, and it was boiling all the time. You do. It's difficult. You get to know the characters, and certain players before a game will go into the shell and won't say anything, or whereas others are full of themselves, and so it's a good experience for people to meet. especially the kids to meet the heroes, if you like, see them pre-match, see what they go through. And then obviously like I said, a tunnel experience there, so that means you get to lead them out or something. I mean, that'd be an event in itself, I think. I remember those days. It's funny when you see players pre-match and then you see them after the game and how they are different. I mean, one of the things that sticks out with me is certain players who they have rituals and what they have to go through. You know, you watch one player put one sock on, but it has to be this sock first, then this sock, then. But he won't put his, he won't put his shorts on until the rest of his kit's on or something. You're like, what are you doing? And various players who suffered really badly with nerves, having to go, and sort of throw up. I mean, that was always a bizarre one. I think if I'd thrown up, there's no way I'm going out there for 80 minutes. But he's like that. So, it's interesting to see. So hopefully you get to see that side of things and know what players go through pre-match. It's not just the case, turn up, have a laugh, put your boots on and go and have a game. It's, there's a lot goes on there. A lot of players getting taped up, the injuries you don't see. Players obviously these days getting injections and stuff to get them through games. It's quite eye-opening. So that could be quite good for somebody.
Yeah. Paul, we spend a lot of time in the corridor near the media room, near the sort of the dressing rooms. So my advice, if you're going to do this, is bring a big coat and a windbreak, because it's pretty harsh if you're going to stay there for a while.
It's a fair old draft down there, isn't there?
Yeah.
No, you get to see the players. Sometimes they come out and they look like they've been in a war, don't they? The way they're walking out there, and you do see a different side of it. And I always think they look massive as well. Don't look as big on the pitch. The other week we played Wigan, that Liam Byrne walked out, and I didn't really realise how big he is. He's massive, absolutely huge. Some of the lads that you see. So, some people you don't think are that big, and they're huge, aren't they? So yeah, if you can afford £1,500, it's a lot of money, isn't it? But yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, part of me thinks, Parky, though, the changing room is quite a sort of sacrificial place where the players sort of are together against the world, and I don't know how I feel about sort of dipping in and out of that. Really, how they'd feel about dipping in and out of it. But I suppose it's an opportunity in it for fans to get somewhere where you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like I say, players have routines and they don't like that being upset. And if they say, oh, well, you've got to spend 5 minutes talking to this guy or do this or whatever, it's not always ideal. But, I mean, the players have obviously been, told about what's happening, and you would hope. And Paul Rowley's giving it the all clear. And again, after the game, it's all right if we've won and they're having a song and you can let, somebody bang the drum for the team. It's when they've got beat and his fingers being pointed and things like that. You won't want to go in that changing room at that point. And then players won't want you there because they'll be having words with themselves or they'll be disappointed. Some players will be angry. And the last thing you want to be doing is, having pleasantries for 5 minutes straight after the final hooter. So I don't know how that works, but I get what you're saying. But obviously Paul Rowley's giving it the all clear. There must be a time thing, you can only be in there an hour before the kickoff and then you've got to clear it off and then you've got to wait half an hour after or whatever it is. But it'd be nice if we could set up a kind of, I don't know if the club will take this idea, but like you lads do your interviews after the game. You could say for the kid who's done it, to have a little press conference and get a couple of players in it, ask them questions. I mean, that'd be, just something to throw in. I don't know the full details of what you get for your £1,500, but I just think, a little bit extra.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the club do about that. I remember, obviously, when we beat Wigan in the semi-final, we got to Old Trafford. Their sort of press box backs onto the away changing room. You could hear all the Salford players singing, and when the club officials sort of filed into the press conference, all in tears one by one, it was like sort of really emotional. I thought this was brilliant, but went to the changing room at the Willows, I've been to the changing room at the stadium on open days, and it's all very like plain. I always thought that in our changing room there'd be like maybe a bank of computers where they've got stats where Paul Rowley can like have a big screen and he can point at the video and say this is what you're doing wrong. Maybe they do that. Maybe they have stuff like that, which you don't want people to see. So it will be interesting to see if you do get the opportunity to see what it is actually like in our sort of home dressing room on a match day when it's go time, Paul.
The changing room will be full of sweaty shorts, socks, bottles of water all over the show and that. Yeah, it's just like a changing room, isn't it, basically? I don't think there'll be any technology out in there. They might get the odd pizza box if they've won the game and that, but no, like you said, I'm not in favour of that, really. I mean, the changing rooms is for the players, isn't it, really? So can you imagine if you won that thing or you paid £1,500 at Wakefield, going to change rooms after the game. We got beat 32-6. You'd have loved that, wouldn't you? But no, I don't know. It's obviously an idea the club have had, but good luck to them with it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it works.
Yeah, in my mind, Parker, you've got a table of chicken, table of Costa coffees for rugby players to drink, Jaffa cakes, a prayer room / quiet room, because sort of players like to do that, don't they, sometimes, and like an angry room where players can go in and smash stuff to get fired up, ready for the game. That's in my head. Probably not like that in real life, but you know, if in Rob's world, that's what it is.
Listen, it was very much not like that at the Willows. It was. I mean, the changing room, like I say, wasn't big enough to swing a cat. Not that you'd ever want to swing a cat. I don't get that. Anyway, but it was, you know, obviously the sloping roof and everything. Players were too busy banging their head on girders and stuff. And then you come out, and after training, you'd have a tea room at the far end of the dressing rooms. They go up there, there's two trestle tables with sandwiches on, you know, it was nothing glamorous, a big canteen of tea. So I don't know what it's particularly like on a match day at the new stadium, but I don't imagine it's much different. I think it's just a case of after the match, the players, you know, have a debrief, whatever, quick shower, changed, and then go upstairs to the room upstairs and have the post-match meal. This about having banks of computers. This is Salford Rugby League we're talking about. I mean, let's not get too carried away. We'd be lucky if we've got a blackboard and some chalk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they will have ways. They'll have laptops and things like that these days that they can go through things. But yeah, it's definitely not going to be like a Premier League football team, is it?
No, but to support my theory, when they record the victory song, it's always at the same angle. So what's behind the camera, Parker? What's behind the camera? That's the big question. That's what I want to know. Away dressing room, it was like painted like neon yellow. So all like the players like get a bit headachy and a bit like sicky.
Right.
Cold showers, I'd like that. And maybe a high pitched wee noise. So everyone's a bit like, what's that noise? You know, just before kickoff, so they're not, you know, we got to find an edge somewhere, haven't we, Paul?
Certainly, the way you were talking there, the old change room was a bit like Buck Rodgers, 25th century, you know, all computers and all that and stuff beeping and going on. But yeah, you got to find your edge, haven't you, I suppose? And yeah, be a good idea that one, to make it as small as you can. I mean, when you see them on Sky, I mean, you don't see it as much now, but I think it's like when they have like Castleford on and it pans on the change rooms at their ground. The away changing room looks like a box, doesn't it? I mean, the old change room's not like the Hilton, is it? But the away change rooms is like is terrible. I wonder what it's like at Wakefield. I mean, their ground's a funny ground, isn't it? You know, just going back to last Friday. I mean, bloody hell, if you're a bit unsteady on your feet there on that terrace, you're falling all over. Shoulders like rusty scaffolding everywhere and all sorts. But you know, good luck to the new stands coming on a storm.
Yeah, so that's all the news, and now we'll look forward to this week's games. So I'll start with the ladies. They're in action on the community pitches, midday kickoff against Barrow. Like I said, you know, after last week's defeat, hopefully we can bounce back with a win, Parker.
Yeah, well, we need to, don't we, really? We need another win. We've had a couple of defeats following that. Well, we had that Bradford win away, which, you know, last gasp and all that. I think the girls will target this one. I think they'll see this as a chance, being at home and also, you know, having fans around to watch it, to make an impression. It's a key game, I think, for them. And like I say, we're still learning, but it's going to be interesting to see. They'll you know, they were disappointed the other day when I spoke to them, and they'll just be looking to. Just get a bit of momentum. If you could get a couple of wins on the trot, would be nice. You know, it's been like win lose. So this is it's a good place to start. I'm not sure how Barrow are doing this year. I to be honest, I do struggle to find the league table for the ladies. But again, I'm not sure how developed their team is either. But obviously Barrow is a hotbed, so you'd expect them to have some decent players.
Yeah, I think Barrow and Featherstone are the two sort of favourites to win the competition. Mm-hmm. So it is a test for our ladies to play them back to back over 2 weeks. especially, like I say, with all the effort they put in, trying to get back into the contest on last week on Sunday. So hopefully they'll get a big crowd there because it's Mental Health Awareness Week at the stadium. So I'm sure the club will be having big things planned, like the Armed Forces Day, to try and generate interest and bring people to the ground early. So opportunity, if you do get down to the ground early, to watch the ladies play Barrow. The reserves, Paul, they play Leeds on the Saturday on the community pitch, 2 p.m. kickoff. We beat Leeds last season. I think it was away from home. So opportunity to turn them over at home.
Yeah, when's that game play, Rob? Is that a Saturday?
Saturday, 2 p.m.
Saturday, right. Yeah. It'd be a tough game, won't it, against Leeds? It's always a difficult game against them. They've got that riches there. They have the embarrassment of riches that's inside that club, the massive academy and the reserve team. But our reserves have not been doing too bad, have they? The last couple of weeks, they've come close on a number of occasions. So that should be one to watch out for. That.
Yeah. So if you want to get down there Saturday, support Stuart Wilkinson's boys against Leeds, 2 p.m. kickoff. Let's move on to Paul Rowley men. They are in action at home on Sunday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Leeds Parquet. Leeds have found some form, unfortunately for us, but a positive for us is Blake Austin will miss, and he's been their form player.
Yeah, I've been a critic of Blake Austin for a long time, to be honest. I remember he was at Canberra and he looked a really, really good player. And then he arrived at Warrington and there was this big song and dance about him. And then the first time he came up against Jackson Hastings just played him completely off the park. It was like, night and day between the two of them. And I think I've always found him a little bit overrated. But then the last 2 or 3 times I've watched him, I thought he looks like the player that he was at Canberra, making these strong runs, opening up gaps. He's a big lad for a halfback as well. So it's great that he's obviously missing when he is in form. But I've also got suspicions because he is fighting for a new contract, isn't he? And we've had that where players have played brilliant, got a new contract, and then just fell off the edge of the earth. So I'm a little bit suspect. For me, the thing with Leeds is, Paul mentioned it earlier on, is their pack. We've got a really good big pack, a lot of big men. And our pack has been bullied the last few weeks. And this is where the test is. I mean, I listed a few of their players here, Aledzki, Lizone, Sangare, Sam Walters, who's been absolutely wonderful for them. Holroyd, Gannon, Bentley, Tetavano. I mean, it's names that some of them players won't get to play. We could only dream of having, them kind of riches in the pack. So it's key for us to get players back. We've got to hope that we have our 3 main players back in there, and hopefully Stone as well. That'd be nice. I'm not really sure why Sam wasn't playing last week. I've heard nothing about that. But if we can get them back on the park, our attack will obviously straight away be better. Easily. I mean, for me, the one player we've missed the most is Andy Ackers. I think he just gives us so much from acting half. I think he's an absolute star, and we've lacked that zip and guile that he's got. He knows the game. He reads it really well. He spots things, especially from acting half. You know what I mean? He'll see that it's time to go himself. So we need to get him back in the game. But our forwards have got to stand up. Really got to stand up and set a platform for our backs, because we mentioned earlier about like Budgie not looking. His confidence is definitely low, but he's not getting chances, near the opposition's line. He was too busy trying to drive it out from defence all the time. We need to, if we can get within a team's 20, 30, we look dangerous. We look like we're going to score, but we need the forwards to get us up there. And then when we are up there, if we haven't got the ball, to defend and stop the opposition getting back down our end. If we do that, we can compete with anyone, absolutely anyone in the league. There's no doubt about that. But Leeds are full of confidence. They've got Richie Myler, who generally scores against us. And one player that I think has probably scored on every time he's ever played against us is Ash Hanley, who's a winger. I think he's an absolute phenomenon. I think he's brilliant. He's probably the best player Leeds have got by a long way. And he's kind of stifled a little bit with the England opportunities, because we've got Makinson, Johnston, Tom Davies, Ashton at Warrington. We've got a glut of wingers at the moment, but he's superb, a really good player, really dangerous. So they've got threats all over. But for me, if we can switch on this week and just get out of this little rut we're in, we can beat Leeds. We proved it at Headingley. You know, we were better than them that night by fair distance in my eyes. That wasn't that long ago. You know, so without them having Austin, we've got to see this as a chance to get back on it and then set up for the rest of the season now.
Yeah. Paul, not vintage Leeds. They are beatable. Paul Rowley is an experienced coach. He's been in this situation before. Players will be hurting after sort of last week's non-performance against Wakefield. Hopefully a big day planned by the club. You know, it's going to be a good day.
Well, it's about time we played well at home because we've been so flat at home games, particularly this season. You know, it's about time we put a performance in. But Leeds are a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde side, aren't they? I mean, look at their results this season. I think they beat Castleford. They've lost to Castleford twice. They got beat at Wakefield. Yet they won away at St Helens. They won away at Wigan by 40 points, and they only had 12 men. They've tonked Warrington. They've got 50 points against Huddersfield. So you never know. I mean, I watched them the last 2 weeks, and you look at them and you think they could get to the grand final. You know, the way they play the sport, they're capable of going to St Helens and winning by 20 points. They just are. I mean, we've never won at St Helens ever for 43 years, but they just seem capable of pulling them sort of results off. And then yet again, they'll go and lose to someone. So, you know, like Parker said, I think they've got a big pack of forwards. I think they've got a very mobile pack of forwards as well. You know, they've got a bit of pace in that team, and once they get the ball moving, they can cut you to pieces, can't they? They've got Richie Mile, who's a terrific support player. He's always there backing up. So they're a dangerous side. They do seem to have a bit of vulnerability about them, but you just can't afford to let them get a roll on and get playing. I think we need to come out early doors and make a statement ourselves, because when we have done that and we've started on the front foot, we're a hard team to beat, but we're not a back foot team. I think we're a team that's got to go out and take the game. We don't seem to be a team that can go sort of 16, 20 points down and come back. Well, no team can really, can they? But we certainly can.
Yeah. Prediction time, Parky. What's your thought process?
I think the players will have it in them that they owe everybody and themselves, you know, a better performance than they've been putting in, and certainly from last week, they all know that wasn't good enough, and it wasn't the Salford that we've watched for the last couple of years. So the effort will definitely be there. I've got to see the squad. That's the big thing. I don't know. You know, there's no confirmation of anybody being back. I mean, we've had mind games before where so-and-so is going to play and they're not, or vice versa. So until I see it down on paper, I don't believe anything. But if we do have Ryan Briley back, if we do have Brodie Croft back, if we do have Andy Ackers back, if we have got Sam Stone, and hopefully Alex Gerrard can back up another week coming back from that injury, because he needs more time, but he's a very useful player. I think we can definitely beat Leeds. We've proved that. We've got no, you know, even though our record against them is absolutely dreadful. Paul Rowley doesn't read anything into any of that. He'll have us fired up. So I'll go with an 18-12 win.
18-12.
Yeah.
Paul said 3 in, 3 out this week. Does that make your prediction any different?
3 in, 3 out, as in what?
As in 3 are coming back from injury and 3 are injured.
Oh, right.
But he didn't give us any names, and we're recording this on Wednesday night, and the squad isn't been published yet, so we're still.
The squad won't come out till Friday.
We'll be missing.
Yeah, the squad will be out Friday, won't it? So, yeah, I'm not so sure he's going to be missing, but no, I'm not going to count anything into that. I'll still make the prediction. I'll go for. Steve doesn't miss many kicks, does he? So we'll go for 26 to Salford, 4 tries and a penalty goal, and 16 to Leeds.
26-16. I'll go in the middle, obvious. I'll go Salford 20, Leeds 14. And I'm thinking Ken Seo will score just after half time. Salford to win, which is good. So that's the end of this podcast. Another great show, Parker, talking all things Salford Red Devils. Great debate as well about the state of general rugby league, and really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I think we could do a whole couple of hours podcast on the state of rugby league, and where we see it going and everything. It's that in itself is a massive issue. But we've had enough to talk about, even though it's a fairly quiet week, isn't it? But it's always good just to catch up and have a chat, especially after last week. I've got to say, I saw Paul at the end of the game on Friday night, doing his post-match report, and he was crouched against the fence, and I actually worried that I was glad his family were with him, because he didn't look like he was going to make it home. He thought he was going to commit Harry Carey for a minute. He looked. I mean, he looked how I felt the other night, and I was a bit worried. And then when you phoned when I was on the coach on the way back and said you couldn't get hold of him, I was really worried.
Yeah.
So it's great to be here tonight and know that he's still with us.
Yeah, and you wonder, Paul, why I was persistently ringing you after Parky said Paul didn't look a good way after the game, and I was like, why, what's the matter with him?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because when you're doing the videos in the crowd, you do get people looking over it, and the one or two people are looking at me on Fridays think, oh, what's he doing? Is he all right? And I don't know, it must have been the face I had on, but we was driving back down the 62 with Oscar, James Oscarson, and it was absolutely teeming down one. It was pouring down. It was horrible. And that was like sort of a bloody American Horror film. And then you phoned us up, Rob, and when we put the phone down to you, I looked at Oscar and he looked at me and he went, kind of feel better now. I said, I feel the same. I said, tell you what, I said, we could lose by 100 points, but Rob would find some positives in it. He's so positive, that lad. And it's like, you just lifted us completely. We were both like down in the dumps. We spoke to you and thought, God, I feel like I've won the lottery now. The enthusiasm that you had after the defeat, I mean, that's off to you, mate. You're a star, because you perked us both up.
Yeah, I couldn't get my head around it, really, because after the game, I spoke to a couple of club officials, and they were like, "Oh, I can't believe we got beaten." I was like, "We haven't won it since 2015. It's not like a match I'll tick off as a win." But yeah, there's always got to be positives, aren't there? Even in defeat, and that's you grow, your character builds in it after every defeat. And I was disappointed, but it's as night follows day, Salford lose at Wakey, and that's the way it is. Parker.
Yeah, well, we have that a lot of places, don't we? And that's what I mean. It wasn't the loss that stunned me in any way. It was the performance that was the problem, and that's kind of unforgivable at times. But then you think, is it really? And then like you say, by tonight, I'm back in love with the matter, and it's all forgotten. It was just a bit of a tiff, and I'll take him back again. Yeah.
Club is being held hostage by the sport is being held hostage by Sky, but we still love the club. That's all I'm asking. So I want to say big thanks for our listeners who support us through the Ko-fi, buying us programs and all the things that make this podcast what it is. We couldn't do it without you. If you haven't donated a coffee for me, Paul, and Parky so far, you can find our link on the Facebook page and the Twitter page. All donations are greatly received. So big thanks for joining us on this Devil in the Detail podcast. It's been a great show. I'm Rob Parkinson. You can find us on Facebook, Devil in the Detail SRD. You can find us on Twitter at DITDSRD, and you find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Radio Contact, Spotify, and YouTube. Good luck, Reds. We'll see you soon.